What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Fish the Moment. Today I'm with Randy Blockett, and we just got done fishing on Grand Lake in Oklahoma. It's the middle of July, the middle of summer, really hot, and fishing has been tough. And you've been out here a little bit, Randy, on Grand Lake. How's the fishing been?
Yeah, I've been fishing it a bunch the last month and a half. Fishing has been really tough here lately. They haven't had a lot of big tournaments, but the tournaments they have those little jackpot tournaments for 4 hours. It's been taking like 10 or 11 pounds to win these tournaments. So the fishing over the past 2 weeks here, Johnny, has gotten really tough compared to June.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical this time of year. And really what I find in July is that the offshore bite gets a little bit tougher. The shallow bite maybe gets a little bit better. And so what we wanted to do today is do another offshore versus shallow challenge to see who could catch them better. Me fishing offshore, Randy fishing up shallow. And let's just start out, Randy, by going through how you caught him today fishing up shallow.
Well, you know, my plan was to just basically run a lot of shallow wood today, and I started out doing that a little bit, didn't get very many bites with it, and then I went to a technique that usually always works here at Grand in the summertime, and that's fishing a jerk bait around the boat docks. And I started fishing this the Megabass Vision 110 around the dock corners, and I started catching a lot of like pound and a half, pound and 3/4 fish that were suspended around these docks. And you know, you catch a lot of fish doing that in the summertime, and occasionally you can catch a big one doing that. But I did that for quite a while, caught quite a few fish doing that, and then I started cranking this Megabass Z2 crankbait around shallow wood on the mud flats, and I wound up catching a couple more better fish on this shallow crankbait. So that was my combination today. I did do quite a bit of flipping, and I could not get any bites flipping. It was all a reaction bite for me today.
And so would you think that there are a good number of 3+ pound bass up shallow, or is it a lot of the smaller fish that have been sitting up there?
Well, I think it's completely situational with the better fish, because I think there's little windows during the day that you can catch them good. Like there may be a window right off the bat in the morning. Today we didn't get on the water till it was after 8 o'clock, but if you could get out here like at daylight, you'd probably pick up some good ones on the top water. But for me, I should have been in the dirtier water farther up the river, because the cover that I was looking for, there's more of that up there. And I stayed down the lake a little bit more where that premium cover was not, you know, quite as common.
And that's what you did last week when we were fishing on Stockton. You went way up a creek, way up the river, and on Grand the water has a lot better clarity, or dirtier water in this area of the lake. You have maybe 12 inches of visibility, maybe 16 inches, as opposed to on Stockton, even like a mile out of the creeks, you have 4 foot of visibility. So I guess I can understand why you would have stayed more in this area of the lake, not running up the river, just because of that water visibility. But do you find that running up those creeks, regardless of water visibility, is better this time of year in July?
You know, normally on Grand, there's a really good bite in the mid part of the lake, because you have a lot of shallow rock, you have a lot of wood behind the docks, you have a lot of dock cover. There's a lot of shallow water cover in that 12-inch visibility water, which is really good for this time of year. But what happens is like I said, we're talking about the transition, and when you start to transition into July and August and September, that's when, for me, the pure river portion of the lake is better. You know, the mud banks, isolated wood cover, there's not as many docks, not as much wood, not as much rock up there. It's mud, gravel, and wood, and that's, to me, is the key areas to be as the summer progresses.
Gotcha. Yeah, I found that to be the case as well. I like to go, if I'm fishing up shallow, way up the rivers. You know, get to the point where you're actually getting where the lake narrows down, and you have, you know, maybe a channel that's only maybe 30 yards wide. Yeah. And if you get out of it, you're gonna wreck your boat, but if you can get the fish, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And but like I said, there's this time of year, there's a lot of different ways to catch them. You know, like I know you got some decent bites today out deep. Yeah. I'm sure there's a topwater bite going on, dock bite, shallow brush, shallow rock, a lot of different options on Grand Lake right now.
Yeah, and really, the offshore bite was not that great today either. In general, the offshore bite is pretty good in June on Grand Lake. Yeah. When that current's flowing and we have a lot of water movement, you can catch anywhere from 15 to 25 pounds out on Grand Lake fishing deep diving crankbaits, swim baits, football jigs, stuff like that. But as the summer progresses and you get into that July period, there's less rain. And as a result, there's gonna be a lot less current. Right. And that current is what positions a lot of these offshore fish, especially those bigger fish, to pull up on offshore points and ledges and humps. And so today, I fished offshore the entire day and actually found a lot of schools of fish. I actually grabbed over 4 spots. It looked like it was on the Tennessee River almost, with fish dotted up all over the graph in like 15 to 18 foot of water. And I was thinking I was just gonna pull up and crush them. And I never got a bite on that stuff at all, no bites. I threw a flutter spoon, a hair jig, a big swim bait, a big spinner bait, a Nico rig. I threw everything at them and they would not eat it. And a lot of times in July that happens, where normally in June you can go and catch them on every single offshore spot in the lake, it seems like, and the fish bite easily and you can catch them quick. In July, the bite slows down a ton. And really my biggest issue today was my, 1, lack of experience on Grand Lake offshore, and 2, the lack of time I had to actually find these fish. I ended up catching 3 fish, or actually 2 fish, and broke off one good one. I had one that went about 3 3/4 pounds right at the end of the day actually, and it was just off of a shallow rocky ridge in about 12 foot of water, and I'll show you guys that fish catch here. Got him. There we go. Last minute heroics again here. Oh yeah, last minute heroics. There we go. Good fish. Get up here, fish. Oh, there we go. Good fish right there. That's what I'm talking about. Finally, guys, it's literally, Randy just ran past me to the boat ramp. For whatever reason, I just can't seem to catch him until the last second out here, but finally found a spot that had a fish on it. Man, that jewel football jig again. I've only had 3 bites on it today. I had that really good one in the brush pile that got me off, that 2-pounder off that rocky point. Now a little 2, maybe 3-pounder, maybe 3.5-pounder off of another rocky spot out here. There's kind of a rocky ridge, and so let me just get on the scale. It's kind of skinny and long, but let's see what he weighs. 3 pounds 11 ounces. 3 3/4 pounder is actually not as bad as I thought. So I got a 2-pounder, a 3 3/4 pounder there. Really nice fish. Just got him on getting that football jig. I'll show you the spot I'm catching him on in terms of the electronics and everything here in a second. And then I caught another fish just fishing a main lake channel swing point. It was about a 2-pounder, nothing big, just throwing a jewel, fish the moment, brush pile jig off that point. And you guys are probably gonna get sick of me talking about this football jig, but in the summer, it is my #1 go-to bait, and in the fall, and the winter, and in the spring. I throw it a lot, and so I'm really happy about this jig that we've put out. And so definitely check it out, guys. If you haven't seen it already, I'll leave a link in the description below. But really, those were the 2 fish I caught. And then I also found 1 brand new brush pile. And it's a brush pile that I think someone just planted maybe 5 to 8 days ago. The leaves were still relatively green. There were a few brown leaves that were floating up on the surface. And I saw that there was bait fish in it, and the bait fish were feeding on those leaves. And like my 3rd cast in there, he pulls me down, breaks me off, snaps me off. And I've been throwing that football jig in rock all day, and that rock tears up your line. And normally I'm fishing tournaments, I'll retie like every 15 casts, but today I wasn't bothered. And so I think that fish could have been somewhere between, I don't know, 3 to 5 pounds, maybe even bigger. Could have been a 7, 8-pounder for all we know. But those are the 3 bites I had. And a lot of times in the summer, in July, when you don't know where the fish are, getting those 3 bites, especially 3 decent bites, is really good actually for 7 hours of fishing without knowing where they are. And really, if I had known where more brush piles were, especially those newer brush piles, and I had time to graph, let's say for a full day or 2 days before a tournament, I probably could have located 5 or 6 more of them. Right. And then I found a couple rocky spots that had some fish. Maybe if I could locate a few more of those, I probably could have ended up having a really good tournament day, 15 to 18 pounds of fish, even in this tough conditions.
Yeah, that'd have been outstanding, yeah.
But in 1 day of fishing, when you're just going out for 7 hours, especially guys who just fish like once a week on the weekend or a Saturday, it's going to be really tough to come out here on Grand Lake and go catch even what I did, because I'm really efficient at finding them and I know what I'm doing out here really well, at least locating them. If you're not that experienced with electronics or trying to catch them offshore, you may have only been able to get on one of those good spots and catch a few fish. And so either way, fishing offshore, fishing up shallow, the fishing wasn't fantastic. And that's pretty typical in July when you don't have front rolling through or a bunch of rain that's going through the system, moving current. Fishing can just be tough, and you shouldn't go out and expect to catch 30 fish. I want to interrupt really quick to tell you guys about a $250 fishing tackle giveaway we're going to be doing on the Fish the Moment Facebook page. Just go to @FishTheMoment on Facebook and then like the page, follow the page, and comment on any of the recent posts. If you do this, you're going to have a chance to win one of 5 prize packs of fishing lures valued at $50. And we're going to be doing these giveaways every week to try to get more people to follow the Fish the Moment social media pages. We have almost 70,000 subscribers right now on YouTube, and we only have 4,000 to 5,000 followers on Instagram and Facebook. So we really appreciate you guys going over to those pages, liking and following the pages, and if you do, you have a chance to win some of these prize packs. But also, Randy and I are going to be doing a lot of Facebook and Instagram lives, as well as more video content exclusive for social media members. So definitely go to Fish the Moment on Facebook as well as Instagram by going to @FishTheMoment, follow the page, like it, and also comment on a recent Facebook post to be entered into the giveaway.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed, I fished Grand here for 40 years since I was a little kid, and the July and August tournaments they have here, it's usually like a top-heavy tournament. Usually somebody will get on maybe like a deal like you did on the deep brush piles, and they catch a 17 to 20 pound bag, but then 10th place, maybe 9 or 10 pounds. So there's a big separation that occurs this time of year. And one of the things I found out about this is in June on Grand and a lot of these lakes, they use the hard structure, the hard breaks, the drop-offs, the humps. But as the summer progresses, they move more into those man-made piles for some reason, and they get off that hard structure. And that's why the anglers, that's why local anglers dominate so much on certain lakes, that they know where all this man-made brush is and they plant a lot of it.
Yeah, planting brush this time of year is huge. That's how I always caught them really well in Lake Dardanelle when I was doing great in tournaments. Is you catch them great on the ledges, like you said, ledges, humps, rocks, stuff like that in May and June. After that, it's all brush piles. It's all, there's maybe you can get them on some shell beds if there's some current flowing, but that's pretty much it, just man-made brush piles. And finding man-made brush piles is honestly just a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's some work.
You just have to graph and graph and graph, and for the average angler going out on the weekend, probably not the most effective strategy for having a good single day of fishing.
Yeah.
If you're a tournament angler, it probably is the way to go catch them in the summer. If you're going to go try to do well, go graph for brush piles, find 15 or 20 of them, and just rotate them.
Right.
And I've made a video, guys, on exactly how to identify brush piles in your fish finder, what fish look like in brush piles, how to find good ones. It's a complete guide to brush pile fishing. Check out that video, I'll link it right here, and it will kind of get you started in the progress of going and fishing offshore. And if you're going to throw a bait in there, Fish the Moment Jewel brush pile jig, just saying. One more thing, guys, for everyone who ordered a new Fish the Moment offshore jig by Jewel Baits, you should be receiving your baits within the next 2 weeks. The initial orders for this bait were way more than we expected, and we actually ran out of all the materials that we had to produce these jigs within 2 days, which is incredible. Thank you guys for supporting Fish the Moment and supporting Jewel Baits for making this bait. And we're working with our skirt manufacturers, the hook manufacturers, all that to get more raw materials in, and once we get all those in, we'll have plenty to fulfill future demand. We just weren't expecting you guys to buy like literally thousands of jigs. So really appreciate you guys going on and checking out this lure. And if you haven't checked out, go to jewelbait.com and you can pick up some of these jigs for yourself. They definitely work. You'll see it in this video and a lot of videos coming up. But either way, I think that for the average angler, what you did today is maybe a little bit more attainable. Running up the creeks, running up the rivers, fishing a crankbait, a jerkbait, flipping, especially if you have one day to fish. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely so. And there's, like I said, and everything that I do, it comes to a tournament lens because I'm a professional tournament fisherman. But if we had a tournament here right now, more than likely the tournament would get one like you were fishing today, off of those man-made brush piles. But probably 75% of the checks that came in that tournament would come like the way I was fishing. And for me to do well in a tournament shallow right now, I've got to completely maximize my opportunities. I've got to get my boat positioning's got to be on. I can't lose any key fish. I've got to totally maximize my opportunities because I'm not going to get that many chances at the quality fish that you might fishing deeper. I'm going to be focused more on those 2 to 3 pound fish with an occasional big bite, if I'm fortunate.
Yeah, I think for tournament guys too, that's a really big consideration to take into account, because if you're out there to try to go win a tournament, and that's your whole goal. You want to go win a tournament, then going offshore, graphing for brush piles, doing that, that's probably the best way to do it. Yeah. And if you want to go catch those really big bags of fish, but it can also bite you a lot. If you're not dialed in on what these fish are doing offshore and have a lot of spots, if you only have 3 or 4 brush piles and a couple offshore areas, a lot of times that's not enough to get a limit. You might catch 3, like that one tournament you talked about had 4 fish for 22 pounds. It's very easy to go catch 1 or 2 big fish offshore if you graph around enough. But stringing 5 of them together this time of year is very difficult. Yeah. And so that's the big risk you run into this time of year. Fishing offshore is you can get a mega bag or you can mega suck and not catch anything.
Absolutely, and you can, as the summer progresses and it gets into September, it even gets a little bit more tough. Yeah. But on a lake like Grand Lake, some of these northeast Oklahoma lakes, that is the time of year you can win shallow. If you can ever win shallow in the heat, in the warmer months, it's usually like in September. That's when everything gets really tough, and a lot of guys that go up the river and they crank the shallow wood and whatever covers up there, they may catch 4 decent fish, and then they just get a 5 to 7 pounder out of nowhere, and they've got enough to win. So I've seen the shallow bite, actually be better than the deep bite as it goes on in the summertime.
I would agree with that too, and I find that I don't really fish offshore as much in August and September as I do fishing 2 to 4 foot of water offshore in the middle of flats. I guess I'm still offshore, but it's like big wide open flats and like logs, isolated logs and stumps off flats, stuff like that. Yeah. That's a lot better for me than trying to get out in 15, 20, 30 foot of water.
Right, absolutely. And one of the things that I found out is, a lot of people equate shallow water power fishing around wood with square bill crankbaits, but one of the things I found is a smaller, deeper diving crankbait. Like I said, this is the Megabass Z2, and it runs about probably 5 or 6 feet. I like to fish these diving lipped crankbaits around that shallow wood a little bit better because they crawl over the cover real good, and they dive down more vertically than horizontally like the square bills do. And it just seems like in the heat of the summer I get a lot more bites on these medium diving crankbaits around that heavy cover versus the square bills, which that's what the bass see a lot, because so many people they think summertime, shallow water, I gotta fish a square bill. So you might try the smaller, deeper diving crankbaits around that shallow wood when it gets tough. I think it'll really help.
That's a great tip, and that little crankbait is awesome because it has a good proportion to it, but it casts really well.
Yeah, this is the one I caught him on at Stockton last week. Different color, but it's the same bait, so it's a good hot water crankbait, definitely.
That's awesome. Well, as you can see, there's 2 definitely effective ways to catch them. The shallow bite is more of a hit or miss if you're going to get that quality bite, and so you're kind of leaving up chance there. In the offshore deal, you have a better chance catching the numbers, but you're leaving up a chance of if you're going to catch enough fish. So either way, you're kind of leaving up the chance here in the summer, and fishing's not easy this time of year by any means. So I think we both did pretty well, especially for getting out a little bit late, only fishing for 6 or 7 hours and not really know exactly what's going on out here. So Randy, good job, and
yeah, you too, man.
It was a fun day.
Yeah, definitely. It's just you learn something every time you're out there. I mean, my mind's already going through what I would do different tomorrow if I was out there. So you're never satisfied in fishing. Even if you like win tournaments, you want to win them by more. So that's the thing that really attracts me to the sport. It just keeps your mind moving all the time, and trying to catch more and more fish all the time.
That's awesome. Speaking of being attractive too, these Fish the Moment sun shirts are keeping us both looking very attractive right now.
I got mine this morning, and these things are so comfortable. I just absolutely love the thing. I got mine all dirty today from fish, but I've been extremely comfortable and cool today.
You can get these on fishthemoment.com, guys. Sorry for the shameless plug there, but these shirts are really nice, and we didn't spare any expense getting these. They are a little bit on the more expensive side, but the quality is really high. That's what I tried to go for, not trying to get something cheap and that'll wear out in like 6 months. So either way, guys, thanks for checking out the video. Randy, thanks for getting on the lake with me today. And I know that probably some of you guys are going to be asking, why didn't Johnny go fish offshore or fish up shallow day on Grand? We said in the last video that I was going to go fish shallow, you were going to go fish deep. And I don't know if it was because I chickened out and I didn't want to go get my butt stomped up shallow, or if what it was, but I hope that maybe one of these trips I will be able to go fish up shallow, show you guys how I'll do it, maybe show you how not to go fish up shallow, and then Randy can go crush them out deep, and I think it'd be a pretty fun show as well. So let me know in the comments if you guys want that style of video, or if you like both of us kind of focusing on more of our expertise, me focusing on offshore, where that's where my strength is, and then Randy focusing in that shallow to mid-depth where he's more confident. So just let us know. And other than that, thanks for checking out the video again, guys, and thanks again, Randy.
Okay, see you guys later.
See ya.